Welcome back to New Day Northwest. Parenting is not a job for the faint of heart. From the baby stage to walking to teens, you just never stop worrying and wondering if they're getting everything they need. For parents in the LGBTQ community, there are often concerns on top of the usual concerns. So we wanted to explore more, and I'm joined by Fred Swanson, father of 3, and Elaine Helm, mother of 2. Thank you so much for being here. Tell me about your families.
Yeah, so my wife and I have been married almost 10 years, and we have 2 kiddos. There's a 10-year age gap, so we've got everything from the teenage years to the early grade school years happening, the whole spectrum.
So you have a kindergartner, you said, and a, how old?
16-year-old.
16, wow, God bless. All right, what about you?
Yeah, so my husband and I have been together 19 years, and we were foster parents for 6 years, and during that time we provided homes for 3 different children, all of whom ended up staying with us permanently, and we adopted. So we have an 11-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 16-year-old.
Oh, so you are deep in the teenage years right now.
Deep in it.
Oh, bless you too.
Yeah.
My goodness. So let's talk about raising kids in a gay parenting family and the lack of, I don't know, representation from books or everyday songs that we sing. My cousin, who is married to a woman and they have 2 kids, she sent me the Marlon Bundo book to help explain to my kids. But that's the only book that really is seen a lot of popularity. What about y'all think?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's more and more resources out there for queer families and different types of families. You know, families come in all different types, and there's lots of different ways to make a family. So that's one of the things we talk about with our kids is like, there's lots of kids in your class who have single parents or who are being raised by grandparents or foster kids. So, you know, it's hard when kind of what's seen as normal or what they see everywhere is just this sort of one way. But I think it's slowly coming around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, there aren't necessarily a ton of resources in terms of books, but there are more and more.
Yeah.
And I also think that you as parents can really talk to your kids about what is your family? How are you going to define your family? And what does that mean? And I think, you know, when you're a queer parent, oftentimes that comes to the surface because there's, you know, like when we're in the grocery store with our 3 kids, it's really clear that that we are a different kind of family than other families. And so you want your kids to be ready for that, and you want to also talk about how special you are and how special they are to be a part of something.
I love that.
Yeah, my youngest really got that message loud and clear because for a long time we'd go up to kids on the playground and say his name and then say, yeah, and I have 2 moms. It was like the thing he was proud of to talk about with other kids.
I've noticed that. I do. One parent we spoke with, though, said a gay parent has to come out almost every day to people because the assumption's that everyone's straight until they're not. So is that valid? Have you had to deal with that? Do you understand what that looks like?
Yeah, I mean, the same thing happens at work, right? People are talking about what they're going to do for the weekend and, you know, who they're doing it with. And so naturally, those relationships sort of come up and you have to make those decisions about like, okay, am I going to say wife? Am I going to say spouse or something more general because I don't want to get into it or have it be a thing that disrupts the workplace. But yeah, parenting, it's like, you know, I'm this kid's mom and, oh, and there's his other mom, you know, and so it's not a big deal, but it does happen in kind of small ways every day. There's not like this big moment of coming out and then you never have to do it again.
Right, right.
Yeah, I think it's kind of actually a real advantage or something that I really appreciated about being a queer parent. And oftentimes you make those assumptions, and I appreciate the ability to disrupt that narrative, to disrupt kind of the norms that people and the assumptions that people have, because I think it's also our responsibility on a certain level to disrupt that and to kind of make it clear to people what you're seeing or what you're assuming about the people in front of you may or may not be true. And so let's check your assumptions about that and make space for everyone.
I love that. And on that note, raising kids, I mean, it takes a village. We all know this as parents. How can parents better support each other?
I mean, I think it goes to that point you made about assumptions. Like, let's challenge our assumptions about other people. We can't just look at somebody or hear them talk or see their name and know their story. So let's check that instinct and, you know, be curious to learn more about other experiences and other ways of being a family.
Yeah, I love the other kind of power or excitement I think about being a queer family is all of those assumptions that people make about gender roles are often undermined. So I think you really have to navigate and negotiate with your partner or your spouse or your husband or your wife around even what we learned growing up.
Yeah.
Who's going to do the dishes? Who's going to, fix the car? Those kinds of assumptions that people make about, oh, that's going to be the dad, that's going to be the mom. And you realize how silly that is. I mean, how stupid it is that, of course, like to assume that someone's gender is going to define whether they're a caring parent or the emotional parent or the loving parent or the yes parent versus the no parent. All of that stuff is really just made up. And so I like not having to do that.
That's amazing. And it's also so unhealthy when you fall into those roles or people feel that that's what they need to do. So much more life. Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing this, for sharing your own experiences, and hopefully people, took some solace from this and knowing that you're not alone in parenting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.